I picked a bad song to lead on. Oh well. Let's go ahead and just abruptly stop this now. Good evening, everybody. Let's get this main screen on. Let's get the sound on. And let us begin. My voice is a little scratchy today, so if the trial's only going to be an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, that's about as far as I'm planning to go today. So, plan to get to the end of this trial, because I can't cliffhanger myself for too long. I'm not like a sadist or a masochist, like some people I know are. But here I am, ready to finish trial 2.4, or 2-4. I don't know what your nomenclature is. Leave me out of this. We need to shake this justice system to its core. We need to figure out what Gregson was investigating with the Red-Headed League. And for that purpose, we are interviewing some twisted men, that's for sure. Let us continue with Twisted Karma in his last bow. 2nd of November, 12:33 p.m. The Old Bailey, Defendant's Antechamber. Oh, there you are, Odo. What kept you, my dear fellow? Hello, Mr. Sholmes. Gina? You sure about what you said in there? That the boss, actually died the day before? It's pretty hard to swallow. Yes, I was shocked by the revelation too, Gina. As was I. Possibly more shocked than both of you. It's not a competition, Mr. Sholmes. But I was more shocked than all of you put together. This is the autopsy report in question, is it? Yes, it's strange that there's no time of death noted. I suppose there's a simple explanation, or perhaps it was a deliberate omission. Oh dear, if it was deliberate, it puts me in mind of the last case we worked on, and Dr. Scythe. I know. Anyway, it seems that on the day before Lord Van Zeeks discovered his body, Inspector Gregson was investigating the Red-Headed League, so perhaps something happened with them. Come to think of it, you had trouble with those League men too, didn't you, Mr. Sholmes? You were taken in by their trick. No. Naturally, I wasn't taken in, as you put it. My sleuthhound interest was merely piqued slightly by the rare scent of a weekly £4 income. And that scent masked the underlying scent of deception, I suppose. The two criminals in question are the pair we saw being arrested yesterday, aren't they? In Mr. Sholmes' suite, I mean. That's right, Suze, and it was me who took them in. Thanks to a tip-off by a good law-abiding citizen. Indeed, yours truly. So it's going to be that pair in the witness stand next, is it? Something doesn't quite make sense to me, though. The day before Inspector Gregson was found, you hadn't had trouble with the Red-Headed League yet, had you? Why would the inspector have been investigating them? Well, the likely explanation would be that Gregson's own sleuthhound interest was piqued by the rare scent of a weekly £4 income. Did she always call her Suze? I think this is the first time it's been officially called Suze, but yeah, welcome to the stream, Crimson. Don't tar him with the same brush as you, Sholmes. Yes, well, then there's the whole issue of Inspector Gregson being investigated by Lord Van Zeeks for some reason. The Reaper, the Red-Headed League, Inspector Gregson, Lord Van Zeeks, and Cosima. I feel as though he knew we'd arrive at this point somehow. Gosh, I think you're right. What's he really trying to achieve here today? All the answers will soon be revealed. Observe the time, my dear fellow. This recess will be over very shortly. Yes, you're right. Cosima was determined that he should be the one to prosecute this trial. And he was determined that I should take the defense. Just what is it he's hoping to make me see, I wonder? I get the feeling we're a long way from the end of this trial yet. Well, as I said earlier, my voice is super scratchy, so I can only pull for 2 hours. I hope. Maybe I can go longer. We'll see. I make no promises, though. Excuse me. Are you ready then, Miss Susato? Yes. The Old Bailey courtroom, once again. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session again. We resume the closed court hearing of Baroque von Zeeks, here present, who stands accused of murder. Now then, Prosecutor Asogi. My lord. Have you summoned the witnesses as requested? Yes, the two members of the Red-Headed League who planned and carried out the deception. They arrived not long ago from the local prison by police carriage. Very good. Bailiff, usher the two men into the courtroom. These two men are currently being held by the police on suspicion of attempted extortion. You may omit your occupations, but state your names now for the court. I am Fabien de Rousseau, a descendant of the great de Rousseau family from Nice, in France. My name is Peppino de Rozzi. I am the third son of the great Familia de Rossi, the landowners from Napoli. Now, they're just two of the men we arrested. The two men first became acquainted at a boarding school for European nobility. Those who graduate from Temzik are the future leaders of Europe. But do you have any idea how boring it is to be born with noble blood? Alors, I make it my mission to get the better of the world by employing the little grey cells of my brain. That is all I am trying to do, huh? So, That's the only reason for this whole grand deception you've been carrying out? Oui, you could say that. Not bad, eh? He has the grand ideals, but petty plans. This strange combination is the charm of the Hilarious brothers. See, Capo? Listen to me, Peppino. I have two things to say to you. Eh? Che? Are you about to tell me one of your grand anecdotes? Viva! Firstly, I want you to stop calling me this Capo. And secondly, we are not the Hilarious brothers. This is serious business. Cepello, there it is. The Capo's trump card. The furrowed brow. It is deep, Capo. The furrow and the meaning of your words. Court has been led to believe that under the banner of the Red-Headed League, you have conspired to swindle money from unsuspecting members of the public. Is this true? Oui, c'est ça. What exactly was the nature of this deception by which you planned to defraud? Alors, I will explain it. No, Capo. Leave it to me. As you can see, we both have the vivid red hair, no? At school, we were teased for this without pity. The Capo here, he was many times behind the schoolhouse crying like the Trevi fountain. Those dogs, one day the world will respect us redheads. Every night he would bury his head in his pillow and weep for the unjust. C'est bien, Peppino, enough. I will explain the rest. The first step was the newspaper advertisement. About 1 week before the plan was put into operation, we listed the same notice in every paper in London. Yes, we saw that notice. It was this one, I believe, entitled to the Red-Headed League. Oui, c'est ça. I am honored that you have seen it. It states that the only condition for joining the league is having flame-colored hair, and that if you satisfy the interview panel and are admitted into the league, you could receive a weekly income of £4. On the date specified, red-headed hopefuls gathered in droves at a park specified in the advertisement, and from each person present, this pair took an application fee of 5 shillings. And with the money, to France. It was a plan most elegant, no? No, it was most dishonorable. But to be frank, I'm stunned anybody was foolish enough to be taken in by such an obvious trick. The park was described by one witness as choked with red-headed folk, like a coster's orange barrow. And the day on which all these men gathered to apply was the day before the victim was discovered. Crucially, these two men spoke face to face with every single person present that day. Oui, I have seen more red-headed people in one day than I will see in the rest of my life. See, and now every time I see the Capo's hair, I feel sick to my stomach. Anyway, why have we been summoned here today? Sorry? The date for our trial was not until tomorrow, I was told. Naturally, neither of these men have been told any details about this trial. They've only been shown this photograph. Very good. So, Mr. De Rousseau and Mr. De Rossi, you will now give your formal testimony for the court on the subject of the gentleman pictured in this photograph. Of course, we are always ready to help with the law. I know, coming from a bunch of people ready to commit fraud, I'm not sure how cooperative we want to be with the law. But hey. We had more than 1,000 red-headed people assemble in park in Lime Street that day. But I don't recall the man in this photograph, eh, Capo? No, I don't remember him. Obviously he's dead now, but I assure you, he was not in the park. Allora, this victim is nothing to do with us. You have a lot to answer for, Peppino. It is your fault that we got caught in the first place. God, Switching from French to Italian is brutal. Ugh. You've given sworn testimony that this man in the photograph was not present. Can you be certain? Oui, I am quite certain. We did not interview this man. Nobody looking like this came out to the park. This I can promise. It must be noted that you've been arrested for a grand deception, however. Accordingly, this court has little confidence in your assurances. Uffa. With this attitude, we get to nowhere, huh? He's really a sulkin now. This confidential document was obtained directly from Scotland Yard. It records an entry from the inspector's private diary dated the day before the incident. It reads, Lime Street, Red-Headed League, undercover. Ah, I have the answer. Maybe there was another similar event in the park on the day in question, eh? That is ridiculous. There's no question that Inspector Gregson was investigating the Red-Headed League, which means it's quite possible that's when he was killed. Very well. The defense may proceed with the cross-examination now. Yes, my lord. Alright. Let's break these chuckleheads. Hold it! 1,000 people? That's a very big crowd. It was quite a spectacle. Redheads from all over the capital. Redheads had come from all over the capital. See, the capo here, he has the magnetismo animale. Nobody else could attract so many people. If I could be born again, I would be the capo. All those people wanted was the money, Peppino. The £4 per week. Are you suggesting that you spoke personally with all 1,000 applicants? Oui, that we did. Because every one of them paid us 5 shillings. We take their names and we take their money. And we take their addresses as well. Then I tell them we take some days to let them know by a post, e finito. Maybe 2 minuti a person. We start early in the morning and we stop late in the night. So you earned 5,000 shillings in one day. That's a small fortune. I don't know what a shilling is, like, money-wise. Is it like a nickel? I don't know. Sorry, my knowledge of British currency is so bad. Who'd have thought there was 1,000 such gullible redheads in London to start with? One of whom was a great detective with chemically altered hair. But I don't recall the man in this photograph. Hold it! He doesn't look at all familiar? No, I don't think so. And this is a wig, eh? He was trying to trick us. I do not like the people who are trying to trick the other people. Says the con artist. If between them they interviewed 1,000 people with red hair, it would be unreasonable to expect them to remember every face. No, signore. I may be small, but my memory is very large. I never forget a thing. In my opinion, I do not think that this man was in the park. But he's not going to give the court a definite, it seems. Eh, capo? You didn't see a man like this, huh? Hold it! But according to what you've said, you spoke with 1,000 or more people that day. Oui, that's true. My eyes were burning by the end of the day. Surely then you can't actually remember every single face. How are you so certain that this particular man wasn't present? Normally the red hair is very distinctive, eh? But not when you have 1,000 redheads crowding around. Then it is just an eyesore. But if there was some other information you could give us, then maybe we would recall. That is not the line, Peppino. Remember, we do not remember him. We are sure of that fact, huh? If there was a man with a red hairpiece, but his mustache did not match the color, Then I do not think I could have forgotten him. Kazuma said that these two had only been shown that photograph, and that they'd been told nothing else at all. Can we see Gregson's mustache in this picture? I mean, I would assume so. Yes. His mustache and his eyebrows, for that matter. But what if I fed them just one other detail about the victim? For example... Okay, so... what kind of name did he give? We know that they gave names. I can certainly appreciate that just knowing the man had red hair wouldn't help you remember in this situation. But what if I told you that the man's name was Gregson? The man in the photograph is a Monsieur Gregson. Yes. Names, they are boring. I did not listen to any of them. Oh. It was not a real interview, huh? It was just for a show. Why would I remember the names? That's right. This changes nothing. The man in the photograph was not there, as we have already said. I see. It seems there's little to be gained for pursuing this point further. Tell them again what you said before, Peppino. Si, capo, si. I say it again and again. Hold it! But we only have your word for that. Si, but what else can we do, huh? True. Uffa, we are not having much fun these days. First we are arrested, then we are shown the horrible picture of a dead man. And now you question every single thing we say. We are the victims here. Eh, capo? No. You were caught carrying out a plot to swindle hundreds of innocent people. You had to bring that up, eh? It's not fair. Eh, capo? You have a lot to answer for, Peppino. It is your fault we got caught in the first place. Hold it! What do you mean by that? Cavolo, you promised not to say, eh, capo? After we had taken all the money that day, we should have left the country. That was my plan. I left the purchasing of the tickets for the ferry to Dunkirk to my companion here. But he bought them for the wrong day. Oops. See, but it's an easy mistake to make, huh? The thirsty first. Boff! I have no sympathy for you. We were an all day late for the boat because of your stupidity. And it's only because of this that the so-called great red-headed detective caught us. Capo, you know what I think? This is the work of God. It's a holy punishment, eh? Peppino, for the last time, this is not only punishment. This is only your fault. Ah. Don't blame God for your unholy mistakes. You are making me sick with anger. Maybe I make a mistake, but when it's time to eat the pasta, no one is faster. And I've seen the evidence. They haven't told us much we didn't already know. What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, if it was in the inspector's diary, it seems likely that he must have gone to Lime Street that day. And yet these two both claim they didn't see him. I have to say, they don't appear to be telling lies. Well, they are experts in deception, don't forget. Sounding plausible is their specialty. They may be lying simply to avoid being implicated in this case as well. Surely if they were truly experts in deception, they wouldn't have been caught. Well, yes, you do have a point there. It seems to me like we need more information. Definitely. Alright. Hold it! So let's press this statement, see if leaking other details will give us more information that we need. I can certainly appreciate that just knowing the man had red hair wouldn't help you remember in this situation. What if I told you that the man was always munching on a packet of fish and chips? Do you remember a man who was eating incessantly? Not really. I was looking only at the heads of the applicants. I wouldn't have noticed the fish and chips any more than the caviar and smoked salmon. Or a spaghetti, me. I love the spaghetti. Really? I had no idea. Tell them again what you said before, Peppino. Si, capo, si. I say it again and again. Alright.
Hold it!
Well, what if I told you the man in the red hairpiece was actually a detective? Is the man in the photograph a detective? Yes. It would appear he found your notice in the paper suspicious and decided to investigate incognito. Sorry, but this changes nothing.
Excuse me.
Something to add, Mr. DeRossi? Che, si. I'm always adding something. Parmesan, olive oil, pepper. What I mean is, did you not agree with your friend's last remark by any chance? Eh? What did he just say about the detective? Yes, that. Keep your mouth shut, Peppino. You have said enough already. But the why, capo? What is the problem? There was a man who said, I am an inspector from Scotland Yard. What? Good lord! Order! 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 Explain this volte-face in your testimony, witness. It's simple. A man who was at the park said to us that he was an inspector. There was no such man. Madai, what are you saying, capo? Have you forgotten, eh? I have forgotten nothing. Nobody like this came to the park. Basta, capo, basta. You beat me at many things, but not two. The memory and the meals. Like I said, when it's time to eat the pasta, no one is a faster. But you are inferior to me in every other way, so shut up.
Objection.
Shut there. The damage is done. Indeed it is, sir. There was a man who came to the park, and he said he was an inspector from Scotland Yard. However, he looked nothing like the man in the photograph. He was someone else. How can you be so sure? Because, to start with, his face was completely different. See, it's true, it's true. The man who came was a young guy. His face was a clean-shaven, his eyes were sadder, his chin was thinner. No resemblance whatsoever, then. Anyway, I was not going to be fooled. I took the obvious precaution and said to him, if you are really a detective, show us the proof. See, the capo here, he doesn't take a no-nonsense, eh? But he was well prepared. He said he had identification. Identification? You mean official police inspectors and identification? That is most unconvincing. Sorry, my lord? Counsel, no incognito inspector would offer his identification for inspection. It's quite out of the question. Definitely. Why would he expose his true identity? Clearly the papers were fake. Certo, capo, you are a genius. As we say in Italia, it takes a thief to recognize another, eh? And what happened after he announced that he was a detective? He became very annoying. He said, you are under investigation. So I took his papers from him and chased him out of the park. It was fantastico! And look, here is the identification. So you stole it from the man? He had it a-coming. He made us very scared. But he was not who he said he was. Indeed, the person described does not appear to have behaved as a true inspector would. However, I believe it would be prudent for these identification papers to be entered into evidence. But I like them. Alright, new clue. Now, let us return to the witness's testimony. Well, I suppose we should see what this inspector's identification looks like inside. Yes, it definitely looks fake, doesn't it? Out of interest, what name is given? Probably just something plucked out of the air. It's... Tobias Gregson. Wait, what? This Scotland Yard insignia looks genuine to me. But how? And the department and identification number details are all correct as well. Since when have you known those? Do you mean to say... I know it seems incredible, but yes, I think this is a genuine identification book issued by Scotland Yard. But that's unbelievable. This is the real thing after all. Is there anything else we can glean from all this? I think that's it.
Objection!
Sorry, we have his... I wonder if I could ask you to examine this identification book very closely. Miss Lestrade? Why Miss Lestrade? What is your intention here, counsel? Is this really a fake, or is it genuine? That's the question, which we can't answer ourselves.
Objection!
Don't be ridiculous. No Scotland Yard detective would allow his or her identification to be stolen. That is the boss's. No question about it. It can't be. As I suspected. The undercover detective who attended the Red-Headed League's enrollment on the day in question was the real Inspector Gregson, carrying out an incognito investigation. Suta laws! Order! Order! But if the boss had his identification stolen, he would have reported it straight away. I mean, he was always on me about it. If you lose some, report it at once, he'd say. Could it be then that the inspector was physically unable to report it? Physical? What are you saying? Unable to? You're not suggesting. Yes, it's quite possible that he was killed before he had the chance to report his identification stolen. No! Order! 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 The defense posits that the victim was killed the day before his body was discovered, at a different location. Do you two have anything to say about that? I know nothing. I've done nothing. Pull yourself together, Peppino. Mon Dieu, you can behave a little more like a master criminal than that, no? Now I wish I had returned to Italia. Stop crying, Peppino, please. Otherwise Lumme, stop your whining and start talking. Well, I believe the court will need to hear your story. I know nothing. I've done nothing. But you will tell everything, or face the worst possible outcome. You will try your eyes and testify again about these identification papers and the precise circumstances under which you came by them. For crying out loud. Oh, puns. The truth is, we took him prisoner and kept him for the night at our secret hideout. Even though I didn't think he was a real detective, I was too scared to let him go that day, just in case. We took the man's identification from him and shut him in the room next to ours. There might have been a little tussle, but we did him no harm, and the next morning we let him go. He spent the night in a nicer room. It was nothing like prison, really. This is outrageous! You imprisoned the man! No, see, no! It was not like a prison. He was a very comfortable and a calm and a happy. Eh, Capo? It was never part of my plan, I swear it. Uffa, so, you think it was my fault, eh? Just because I got the date of the ferry wrong. By one little day. I do not think it was your fault, Peppino. I know it. No. Per favore, Capo. It's not fair. You shall have plenty of time for squabbling back at the prison, gentlemen. Ugh. I don't believe this. How could we have been a real detective? Counsel for the defense, proceed with the cross-examination. So, on the day before the incident, Gregson spent the night confined in this pair's hideout.
Hold it!
Alright, this is getting weirder and weirder. Do you realize what you're saying? You have to believe me. I never intended for that to happen. And I'm sure the detective did not intend it either. Do you think? But there was nothing else I could do. See, nothing else. This was our first crime for the Capo. He was at the end of his wits. I have told you before, Peppino, that is not the way to describe a criminal mastermind. What about this hideout of yours? An old empty house behind the park on Lime Street. We rented the place for 2 days. It was an inspired idea by the Capo here. An impulsive idea, I would say. No, not impulsive. Inspired, eh, Capo? What am I supposed to say to that, Peppino? And it was in the house described that you can find Inspector Gregson, was it? Oui. But you have to remember, I was under the impression that he was a pretender, not a real inspector. That doesn't quite add up, though. If you didn't think the man was a real inspector, there would have been no reason to take him prisoner, would there? No, you're right. But we couldn't be completely certain.
Hold it!
Too scared. Why? Because, why had he come to the park? We didn't know. There was a chance that he had seen through my plan. And if that was the case, he would go straight to the police station to blow the whistle on us. Even if he was just feigning to be an inspector, he was up to no good, huh? Without a doubt, I think most people would agree that it's you two who are up to no good. Well, see, you may be right. Eh, Capo? The point is, we were not able to escape from England immediately. That is why we had no choice but to take the man prisoner. What I don't understand is why the inspector felt the need to show you his identification in the first place. See, I ask myself the same question. We were writing down the names and addresses of all the people who we took 5 shillings from that day. I have forgotten what name he said, but the address, it startled me. See, address, Scotland Yard Homicide Division, he said. What? It probably didn't like your face, Peppino. Hey, they might be faking the fact that they're nobles. Anyway, I was not rude, I just politely asked him why he said it. And that's when he started to say he was an inspector. Not long afterwards, he took out his identification. What was Inspector Gregson playing at? Tell the court what happened next. You took him back to your hideout, you said. See, we did. We took the man's identification from him and shut him in the room next to ours. That being this identification book here, correct? See, that is the one. What made you believe that it was a forgery? I never seen a real one, of course. But he was so suspicious, this man. Allora, I was thinking, it must be falso, eh, capo? Oui, it is just as Peppino has said. We were convinced it was not genuine. And so together, the Hilarious brothers, we took the man captive. All we did was shove him inside a locked room. Then we made preparations to transport all of the money. In for a penny, in for a pound. There might have been a little tussle, but we did him no harm. And the next morning, we let him go.
Hold it!
What do you mean by a little tussle, exactly? Both. It was nothing, just a minor incident. The falso inspector, he was a real piece of the work, eh, capo? What happened? Uffa, it was a disaster. We give him a nice room, and what does he do, huh? In the middle of the night, he tries to escape through the ventilore. Can you blame him? We chased him, monsieur, and we caught him again. Can you blame us? Wait, you didn't shoot the man in your haste, did you? Who do you think we are? Of course not! I simply caught hold of him again and took him back to the room. Ooh, excuse me. Apparently saying French makes me want to burp.
Excuse me!
Mr. DeRossi, is something wrong? Eh? Me? Something Mr. DeRousseau just said seemed to make you, well, it seemed to make you act even more strangely than usual. What was that all about? Cavolo, at times like that, you don't want to have the capo after you, believe me. And I speak from personal experience. Personal experience? That is enough, Peppino. There is no need to say more. The truth is, the night before we put the Red-Headed League plan into action, I was scared. It was not fair to the capo, but I tried to run away. It's a shame you didn't manage it. But the capo here, he came after me like the turbine, huh? And he dragged me back to the house, kicking and screaming. I still have the bruises to prove it. Eh, capo? Bruises, you say? Okay. Well, once I get to that scene in Kuro, I'm already intrigued. You want to see, huh? You want to see my fantastico bruises? That's enough now, Peppino. No one wants to look at any part of you. What to do, huh? I show you or I don't. I show you or I don't. You do now. Allora, if everyone wants to see, then I do it. Ecco, you see? It's still very visible, eh? That red ring around your neck? You got that when you were dragged back to the house? See, the capo, sometimes he's very rough, huh? I said that's enough! Peppino's neck is nothing to do with what we are talking about here. You have my word. yes. What is your opinion, Council? Chapter 3. Okay. Oh, this red ring is super important, by the way. Mr. DeRossi, I'm going to have to ask you to amend your testimony with details about that mark around your neck. Aye, Capo. You see? Everyone is interested in what I say, huh? Very well. You will amend your testimony as requested, Mr. DeRossi. See, if you really want to know.
Hold it!
Are you saying that red mark was caused by... See, a big collar made from the leather. A leather collar? Is this true, Mr. DeRousseau? What? We had a Saint Bernard at home when I was younger. It is a souvenir from that time, with a very strong chain. A strong chain? And you put that around your friend's neck? I'm sorry. I was so angry that he was leaving me alone. You did not have to tie the chain to the leg of the bed, although I would not have tried to run again. You didn't do that to Inspector Gregson as well, did you? Treat the people equally is the Capo's here's motto, eh? Just like Rousseau. Philosophy. It's starting to sound a lot more like a prison, all of a sudden. The Capos are tough, but the Capos are rough. I shouldn't have done it. So, the following morning when you released the inspector, he had the red ring around his neck, just like a me. Pino, s'il vous plaît, leave it now. Now you know, the Capo here, you don't want to tangle with him, eh? But for the inspector, it's not so bad.
Hold it!
You took away the man's freedom. However comfortable you make it sound, you were still holding him prisoner. If you say that, then I say this. There is something that takes away our freedom too. The lack of money. So we are the prisoners as well, huh? All of us. Huh? No money, no freedom. This is the truth. It makes me mad and it makes me sad. What can we do? Well... If you feel so disenfranchised, take money to court. Though it will cost you, of course. Oof, there you have it. You see, that is why we need the Red-Headed League. To fight for the justice. For the justice. Perhaps he has a point. No, Mr. Naruhodo. All we did was give the man a comfortable place to sleep for the night. And you say he was a prisoner, huh? Huh? Perhaps he has a point again. No, again, Mr. Naruhodo. You should have heard him snoring. Madai, if anyone was disturbed, it was us. Not much to go on, really. Their testimony does make me wonder, you know. About this pocket watch belonging to the inspector, I mean. Ah, yes. The one he treasured so much, apparently. If he was confined but not restrained, as the witnesses are implying, he would still have been able to wind his watch. That's very true, yes. So, did Inspector Gregson actually die while he was being held captive by these redheads? In which case, is it possible that these two young men are responsible for Inspector Gregson's... To be honest, I find that hard to believe. Perhaps we should try to find out exactly what happened. Very wise, Mr. Naruhodo, yes. Alright. I'm not presenting this statement in particular, but... No, not that photograph. I don't see a mark around his neck. I mean, this isn't a great angle, is it? Like, I can't tell if that's a shadow or not. But I don't see it around, like, the other part of his neck is the thing, so...
Objection!
So the day before his body was discovered, Inspector Gregson was taken prisoner while working incognito.
No, it was not like that. It was hardly a prison. It was an invitation to stay. It was only.
However you describe it, there's one glaring inconsistency that remains. What inconsistency is this, counsel? I would ask the court to look closely at this photograph of the victim, Inspector Gregson. You will see that there's no red ring visible around his neck.
Eh? But that makes no sense. It was me who took the collar off the man in the morning. And I saw the red bruises on his neck, just like I have.
Given that the mark is still clearly visible on this witness's neck, we'd expect to see bruising on the victim, who was put in the collar more recently than Mr. DeRossi.
Indeed, that is most peculiar. But what we tell you, we say this from the beginning, many times. Oui, Peppino is right. The man in the photograph. He is someone different to the man we held captive that night.
Order! It would appear then that on the day before the incident, the man who visited the park on Lime Street posing as an incognito inspector was not Inspector Gregson at all.
Objection!
If that's true, however, how do you explain the inspector's identification? This is a genuine identification book, issued by Scotland Yard. It's inconceivable that someone could have stolen such an important item from the inspector. The prosecution made that assertion itself. And we also know that the inspector had made a note about the Red-Headed League in his diary for that day, which surely means we can't divorce the two events completely. The inconsistency noted by the defense is most troubling. If it were the real Inspector Gregson whom these two red-headed gentlemen encountered, the fact that no bruising can be seen around his neck defies explanation. But equally, if they actually encountered an imposter, how did that person come to be in possession of the real inspector's identification? Does the defense have some plausible explanation, counsel? The whole thing defies explanation. It is for precisely these occasions that we keep meticulous notes in the court record, Mr. Naruhodo. Because those are the facts, and the facts cannot lie. No, the facts can't lie. Even when they point to something so incredible, it's almost unbelievable. Well, my lord, the true identity of the person who turned up in the park for the Red-Headed League's enrollment is revealed by information in the court record, I believe. Good gracious! Very tantalizing, Mr. Naruhodo. So why don't you help us all to see whatever truth it is that you've apparently seen? Who exactly was this inspector that appeared before Mr. DeRossi and Mr. DeRossi? See this guy with the mark around his neck? Yeah. Though it seems incredible, I admit, the undeniable facts point to only one thing. Since no bruising can be seen on the victim's neck, the person who these two red-headed men took prisoner that day cannot have been Inspector Gregson. In other words, your whole argument up till now has been a waste of time.
Objection!
On the contrary, I haven't finished. What? There's no bruising on the victim's neck, so the question immediately posed next is, who exactly was the man in the park on Lime Street found to be carrying Inspector Gregson's identification?
See, that's right. We tell the same story every time. Whoever this man was, the capote dragged him from a pillar to a post with a dog collar.
Mon Dieu, Peppino! I was not so harsh as you say, huh?
So who was that falso inspector, eh? Who was he?
Clearly the defense has an idea about that. About the true identity of the man these two imprisoned that night.
I must ask the counsel for the defense to elaborate post-haste. Who did the witnesses encounter in the park posing as Inspector Gregson?
Take that!
Goodness me, isn't that one of the witnesses who was in the stand in this very courtroom earlier today? A nameless man, whose only occupation appears to be peddling hearsay to passers-by.
Objection!
What on earth will a street seller be doing with a police inspector's identification papers? Witnesses! Is this the man or not? What has happened to his lip? See, this man is not for the Red-Headed League, eh? He's looking for the Twisted Lip League, no? Perhaps rather than make such a rash claim next time, you should bite your lip instead. It seems improbable, yes, but one undeniable fact remains. During his testimony earlier, I noted something around the man's neck. A red ring of bruising. Eh? What? The defense demands that Mr. Gossip be brought back to the stand. Order! Order! Bailiff! Bring the aforementioned witness back into the courtroom! Immediately! Well, I never! An undeniable ring of bruising indeed. And identical to that of the witness beside him. Now, what's going on here, eh? I've always had this me. Oh, it's a birthmark, innit? A birthmark, you say. I assume the reason you've been recalled to the stand has been explained to you. Aye, somehow about Inspector again. But I'm telling you, you got it all wrong, as usual. You're denying all knowledge of it. Well, of course I am. Are you trying to kill me with all this nonsense, eh? Well, at least you'll have more stories to peddle back on Fresno Street, won't you? Now, we're going to need you to testify again. And you, Mr. DeRusso and Mr. DeRossi, I'm sure you'll cooperate, won't you? Do we have any choice? We are in a bigger trouble, eh, Capo? That's quite enough dilatory chatter. Proceed with the testimony. The man who claimed to be the inspector that day was definitely not this man. He's right, see? You think we'd forget these grand lips, huh? I never leave Fresno Street, alright? I've no interest in any red-headed league. I'm all alone in the world, me. I've no kinfolk or nothing. Why would I be involved in something like that? Just look at me, eh? Does it look like I could carry off a disguise with a face like this? It would certainly appear that we have the wrong man. What have I been telling you, huh? There was no need for this pointless testimony. Ugh. That's right, I'm just a simple peddler, remember? Fresno Street's all I know. How would I have come by? A police inspector's identification book, eh? Well, yes, that's hard to explain, but... A brief cross-examination, I think, counsel. Very brief. Ugh. Isn't there anyone in this courtroom who thinks I might be onto something? I stand steadfastly at your side as always, Mr. Naruhodo. Thank you, Suzato. At least someone believes in me. Alright. Let's see what we can get out of these guys. So, I didn't think about it before. Sorry, I meant to press the statement. But before I press the statement, I was thinking about this guy's hair. It's very distinctive. And we can't tell what color it is because it's very... But look at the guy over here. Don't you think they look similar? I don't know. Maybe I'm pushing my luck here. So you say, but how can you be quite so certain? There is no need to tilt your hands on the deck, monsieur. Surely the reason is obvious, no? Because I have never before seen lips like this. Nevertheless, there's a clear red mark around Mr. Gossip's neck. And it looks very much like that left behind on the neck of your colleague by your prized caller. Mon Dieu! With your words, it's like you tried to wring my neck. It does look very much like my neck, though, eh? No, this is a birthmark, lad. The biggest lips in London and a neck to die for. Aye, they broke the mold when they made me. For the first time in my life, I feel lucky to have been born with the red hair. And I thought being Japanese made you stand out in London. His toupee is a bit longer. Yeah. So, you maintain that you've never seen this man before? Oui, c'est ça. I swear it to by the flames of my hair. It might be because of the hat. So fierce pride has outgrown the frustration with your hair now, has it? Is right, see? You think we would forget these grand lips, huh?
Hold it!
Well, yes, I don't imagine I'll forget those lips in a hurry either. That is what I'm saying. For some reason it makes me want to eat, how did Fabian call it? An eclair. You know, I've never seen the hair as black as yours either. Likewise, I'd never seen red hair like yours until I came to Britain. See, maybe it's a national trait, huh? Maybe all the people from this man's country have the grand lips. No, lad, I was born right here on Fresno Street. I've never left. Uffa, that is the problem, see? So you definitely didn't go to the park on Lime Street that day, Mr. Gossip. Now, how many times do you want me to say it, eh? I never leave Fresno Street, alright? I've no interest in any red-headed league.
Hold it!
So, you'd heard of the Red-Headed League, had you? You don't get a name like Gossip for nothing, eh? It's my business to know what's going off in town. I sold that tasty tidbit to a fair few redheads that came past me. Just between us, I even got sandwich to call up for it. Well, he does have a very red nose, if that counts. Who knows? But as you can see, my own hair's not got a hint of red in it. And in any case, Fresno Street's my patch. You won't catch me sidling off to some other part of town. No, sir, not likely.
Excuse me!
Mr. DeRusso? Oui? Can I help you? Did Mr. Gossip's words just now lead you to remember something relevant, perhaps? It was the other day, when I was looking for a place near the park. A small house or something. To be the headquarters of your red-headed league, yes. I visited an housing agent in Lime Street, and there I saw him. This man was paying money to the agent. What? Mr. Gossip? With a housing agent? Oui. He had some kind of contract in his hand, and they were clearly discussing terms. But no, you're mistaken, chum. I've never left Fresno Street, me. Like I said before, you've mistaken me for someone else, someone with the same face. No, the capo's right, I remember it too. He was paying the man with the banknotes. With notes? Like I said, that wasn't me. I was curious why this man with the dirty clothes had so much money. So I looked at the name on the papers. And what name was written? Mr. Gossip? No, this man, he lies. He tells you that he has no name. But in fact, his name is Hugh Boone, is better than Mr. Gossip, I think, see? No! I'm a peddler of tidbits of information, like I said, on Fresno Street, and that's that. I don't much like folk talking about my personal life. Indeed. And it is not the intention of the court to invade the privacy of witnesses. Very well. I shall respect your wishes, sir. The aforementioned name shall be redacted from all court records of this trial, assuming no objections.
Objection!
I'm sorry, my lord, but the defense does object. Because the name just mentioned has a very deep significance to this case. Good gracious! Do you similarly object, Prosecutor Asogi? As it happens, my lord, that particular name has already been mentioned during today's proceedings. Well, I never! In what capacity? Hugh Boone. The name of the leaseholder of the room. Let me put this very simply. The victim's body was discovered in your rented room. I suggest, sir, that you start talking. Well, alright. I suppose that might be the case. So your real name is Hugh Boone? Well, just between us, I don't like to blow my own trumpet, but there's no finer peddler of tidbits in town. So I happen to be able to afford a grubby little room in a fallen-down backstreet townhouse. You do? And once every 6 months, I go and pay the rent to the agent on Lime Street. Oh, I remember now. There's 2 vulgar redheads in there last time. Hey, if either of us is a vulgar, it's not a me. Sink again, Peppino. Why didn't you bring this up before? It's like I told you already. I don't like talking about my personal life. I'm a tidbit peddler as far as everyone else is concerned. No fuss. You will update your testimony to include this most surprising revelation, Mr. Boone. If I must. The leaseholder Scotland Yard's been looking for since the body was discovered has been here under our noses all along. Oh, I rent the room where that fellow was found, it's true. But what difference it makes.
Hold it!
So, you live in that room presumably, do you? No, I don't live there. What do you think? There's no bed, is there? It's just a desk. Then why would you want to rent it? Well, I don't think I should have to say, really. Then how about the notice board in there? Which was covered from top to bottom in confidential documents only the police should have access to. No, that board's not mine. The inspector must have brought it along. It's only the other bits and bobs that belong to me. The desk and the chair and that. People don't generally carry enormous notice boards around with them. The real question is, why was Inspector Gregson killed there in your room? Well, obviously, I've not had the faintest idea. I mean, it's causing me no end of bother, to be honest. It seems to me that Mr. Mr. Boone, would rather as little is known about his room as possible for some reason. Yes, it does come across that way. And more importantly, knowing that the scene of the crime is actually his room completely changes things. In particular, there's one part of his testimony that's really bothering me now. That's how I'm finally going to undo this man. I'm all alone in the world, mate. I've no kinfolk enough. Why would I be involved in something like that?
Hold it!
You mean you have no family? No, none at all. So I spend my days on Fresno Street peddling tidbits to passers-by. Hoping, just between us this is, that eventually someone with lips like mine will come along. I don't think so. You may be right. Anyway, that mark on your neck is just too much of a coincidence for us to ignore. Well, what's a fella to do then, eh? If you don't believe me, we're at an impasse. And there's nothing I can do but flick me lip. Looks like I'm not going to get anywhere here unless I can produce some proof. You're basically saying I got dressed up and posed as some fancy inspector, aren't you? Well, it's beyond me how you think I could do that. Just look at me, eh? Does it look like I could carry off a disguise with a face like this?
Hold it!
Maybe you could. Say with a mustache, or a beard to cover that lip. Alright, perhaps. But I was gonna stick some fake facial hair on to cover up this fine specimen. I'd end up looking like his lordship over there, wouldn't I? Pardon? I assure you my lips are entirely unremarkable. And I would ask you not to cast such scrutinizing looks in my direction, Counsel. Sorry, my lord. My imagination got the better of me there. Well, Inspector Gregson did wear a mustache, of course. You're right, he did. So, perhaps he was hiding something himself. He could barely have hidden a crumb in a mustache of that size. And anyways, the detective we spoke with had no facial hair at all. See, the composer right. He was a clean-shaven. It certainly seems beyond the realm of possibility that this witness could have disguised himself as the victim. Oh, it does and it is. That's the extent of their testimony, is it? What's your feeling, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, what Mr. Boone says is undeniable. It would be all but impossible to hide those lips with any form of disguise. Perhaps, yes, but nevertheless, the mark around his neck is equally undeniable. And it's identical to the one that Mr. DeRossi suffered. Yes, that's true. But why does this whole disguise idea just keep playing on my mind? Because his gossip outfit is the disguise. Those lips are fake. Somebody's gotta find his plastic surgeon. For malpractice.
Objection!
If you have no kinfolk, as you put it, then explain why it is among the sparse furnishings we found this photograph in the room. I presume, as you've been renting the room, that this photograph belongs to you, does it not? Oh, well... Mr. Boone, drop the pretense and tell the court exactly who you are! I don't know what you mean. I'm a peddler. I keep telling you so. You really don't need to bother with me. Please, just leave it alone. As the man says, leave it alone. Whatever the truth is about this man's life, it has no bearing on this case. Because it's simply not possible that he impersonated Inspector Gregson.
Objection!
How can you be so sure? Just look at the man! No amount of disguise could ever hide those unmissable features.
Objection!
But what if we were to look at this the other way around? What do you mean? Oh my god, I love this pursuit theme so much. Yes, Counsel, what do you mean? Well, there's no denying that Mr. Boone's lip is very prominent indeed. But consider the possibility that his prominent lip is itself part of an elaborate disguise. Then hiding that prominent feature, in other words, revealing his true face, would make an utterly impenetrable disguise. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Hugh Boone? Witness, are you still hiding the truth from this court? If that's a disguise, then underneath it, his true identity must be... Yes, that's right. There's really only one person he could really be. My lord, the defense believes it can reveal Mr. Boone's true identity to the court. No. Please. No! Very well then, Counsel. What is the true identity of this peddler who simply goes by the name of the gossip on the street?
Take that!
Your real name is actually Mr. Vigil, isn't it? Mr. Daily Vigil. Ugh! I don't recall that name, Counsel. Who is this Mr. Vigil? It's a name I encountered yesterday, my lord. It has to do with a certain client of Mr. Herlock Sholmes. A young gentlewoman came to the detective, asking him to locate her missing husband. The woman in this photograph, in fact. This is Mrs. Vigil. What? From what I understand, you haven't returned home since the night before the inspector was found dead. But of course on that night, you were being held captive by the two red-headed League men. And last night, you were put up by the prosecution service in preparation for testifying in this trial. Because we'd been led to believe that you, Miss Venus, and Mr. Sandwich were all homeless. Being important witnesses in this case, we needed to know where we could find you, of course. And that explains why you've not only been unable to return home, but also unable to contact your wife, who's been beside herself with worry, waiting for you at the Vigil residence. Now, just you hold on a minute. I don't have the first idea. What I'm talking about? Really? It's a simple enough matter to confirm my suspicions. All we have to do is pull off that disguise. No! Please! Bailiff, bring soap, a sponge, and a washbowl at once. Mr. DeRusso and Mr. DeRossi, you will restrain the witness. Oui, my lord. Si, my lord. Ah! No! Stop! Get off! Don't! Daily vigil and he's a prison warden? Yep. There you go. It's his true face. His wife is Evie Vigil, or Evening Vigil, so it works out, right? Well, we are now seeing your true features, I presume. Lift your head, sir, so the court can see your face. It would appear that the defense counsel's assertion was entirely correct. This has all been a very elaborate deception. So, witnesses, tell the court, have you seen this man before? I don't believe it, but... See, there is no question. This is the inspector we saw in the park. Extraordinary. On the day of the Red-Headed League's enrollment, the man claiming to be Inspector Gregson who appeared before Mr. DeRusso and Mr. DeRossi in the park was you, disguised as the inspector, or rather, was you posing as the inspector in no disguise at all. Mr. Vigil was formerly employed as the chief warder at Barclay Prison. The chief warder? Then your career had promise. Why, you might possibly have been the future governor of the prison. What on earth have you been doing peddling tittle-tattle on Fresno Street? Well, it's been 10 years since Mr. Vigil worked at the prison. 10 years. I'm really dreadfully sorry about all this. Yes, it's true. I am Daily Vigil. And you were the chief warder at Barclay Prison 10 years ago? So, where did Mr. Hugh Boone come from? Boone is... the other me. It's a name I invented. Well, evidently there's a great deal under the surface here. I'll explain everything. I'll tell you just how wretched my life has become. Alright. Spare us no details, my boy. As you say, it was 10 years ago now that my employment as Barclay's chief warder came to an end. Having left the prison service, I searched for some new occupation by which to earn a wage. Times are hard in London, and I found no suitable engagements at all. In desperation one day, I turned my hand at selling wares on Fresno Street. But your wife appears to know nothing of this. She still maintains that you're the chief warder at Barclay Prison. I was utterly determined that my wife should not know of my failings, which is why I've never told her. I opened an account on the bank under the name of Hugh Boone, and I rented the cheapest room I could find on Fresno Street. The scene of the very crime we're investigating. Yes, that's right. A place from which I could emerge every morning at 8 as a squalid peddler, and transform myself back every evening at 5 into a well-dressed man about town before returning home. That quickly became my daily routine. I was puzzled by the lack of furniture in the room, but that explains it. But why on earth didn't you just tell us this in the first place? I have a wife, sir, and 2 sons, and without wishing to sound self-conceited, they regard me with some pride. I couldn't bring myself to disappoint them. So instead you decide to conceal your occupation from them. Yes. I've made such a terrible mess of everything. Still, one thing doesn't add up. No matter how many tidbits of information you could sell to passing gentlemen, even at 6 pence apiece, you couldn't hope to match the salary you must have commanded as chief warder at the prison. Very true. To have kept your family in comfort, despite 10 years of somewhat misbegotten employment. That was all thanks to Inspector Gregson. What? Inspector Gregson? What on earth? It was some years after I invented Boone and began my other life as a street seller. He, the inspector that is, recognized me one day. Do you mean to say the victim was an acquaintance of yours? I knew him from my time working at the prison. When he saw what I'd become, he was deeply troubled for me and my family. And from that day forward, he visited me on Fresno Street with increasing regularity. Then one day, he asked me if I would carry out a secret assignment for him. A secret? What was it? I was to impersonate the inspector. What? Impersonate him? We always met in that little room so the inspector could brief me. Visit Orxie's tomorrow and take a statement from the proprietress. It was always something along those lines. Surveillance work, interviewing people. On those occasions, he would lend me his identification so people would believe who I was. My instructions were to make an impression, to let people know that Inspector Gregson had been at work. And for those services, he compensated me financially. A Scotland Yard inspector willingly relinquished his identification into your care with intent to deceive. That, as I'm sure I need not point out, is a very serious criminal offense. But why? What was the point of you impersonating him? I truthfully do not know. All I can say is that the inspector warned me on numerous occasions. Now remember, Vigil, I need your solemn word. You don't blab about this to anyone, alright? Ever. Even if, well, if I end up a croaker. Gregson, what have you been up to, my dude? In time, he started to bring papers with him to the room as well. It became something of a second office for him. So, in fact, the person who declared himself to be Inspector Gregson at the park on Lime Street was really... Yes, It was me, acting on the inspector's orders. As usual, I removed my boon disguise, and then went as instructed to the park, armed with the inspector's identification book. It never occurred to me that the bruise on my neck might give me away. Well, that was certainly something. Well, it would seem that this confession completely destroys the defense's case. Explain yourself, Prosecutor Asogi! My learned friend's assertion was as follows. The victim was killed at another location on the day before his corpse was discovered, at the hands of these two red-headed leaguemen when they imprisoned the inspector. But no, that can't be. After all, it wasn't the inspector who went to the park that day. It was me. Oh goodness. Finally, we have clarity. We had nothing to do with the murder of the inspector. And merci, Monsieur de la Fence, for proving it. What? Ah! Order! 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 Indeed, it would appear that we have reached a de facto conclusion of sorts. These witnesses had no involvement in the murder of the victim. As proven, somewhat ironically, by the defense. I hereby call an end to the cross-examination.
Hold it!
Pardon me, my lord, but with your permission, I would like to pose one further question to the witness. Kazuma? What question, counsel? It concerns the events of 10 years ago. I believe you would have been present at a very significant execution that was carried out at the time. 10 years ago. The execution of the professor. Genshin Asogi. I want to know exactly what your involvement was. Oh! Answer me, man. One moment, counsel. Is this related to the current case? Naturally. It is the prosecution's belief that this case, and the events of 10 years ago, are inextricably linked. Does the defense concur, counsel? Kazuma, you're not yourself. You're not as calm as collected as usual. Poor Kazuma-sama. No wonder he's acting this way. Mr. Vigil's memories of what happened 10 years ago would tell the tale of Genshin Asogi's last moments. His own father. Kazuma's theme is super strong. I know. I do understand that. But even so... Kazu, Prosecutor Asogi. Do you genuinely believe that this question requires an answer in order to learn the truth behind Inspector Gregson's death? I need you to trust me. Please. Very well. Then the defense has no objection. I see. In that case, you will answer the question, witness. The truth is, I remember very little of that time. You've forgotten! I'm sorry to say, yes. As I said, I resigned from my role at the prison 10 years ago. For some peculiar reason, my memory of the events leading up to that moment is extremely hazy. Does that not strike you as strange, Mr. Naruhodo? sorry. Well, 10 years is a long time, but to have forgotten the reason why he left such an important job? Yes, you're right. And not only that, Mr. Vigil's claim contradicts what we already know. The human spirit is a fragile thing. It's broken all too easily, which is why we have a tendency to wrap it up for protection. The human spirit? I'm afraid I don't understand what you mean. When we experience pain and suffering that we feel unable to bear, we block it out, obliterate it from our memories, seal it away. But it never truly leaves us. The seal is broken, the memories resurface. And when they do, that fragile spirit may finally be crushed. But I really don't... Kazuma-sama... But if it must be crushed, then so be it. Because the truth will not stay buried. It's coming out, one way or another. Right. Now I understand. It's clear what his intentions are. He means to expose the truth, at any cost. Perhaps if I pointed out the contradiction in what Mr. Vigil claimed earlier, it might cause some crucial memories to return to him. But should I? Should I present the evidence or not? I have no idea how this is going to go. But this is a court of law, and I have a duty to pursue the truth. Mr. Vigil, I'd like you to look at this. Evidence that clearly contradicts your version of events.
Take that!
Just a few moments ago, you made the following statement. I resigned from my role at the prison 10 years ago. Well, yes. In other words, you claim to have left the post of Chief Warder of your own volition. Well, yes, of course. Why? Tell me. Do you remember seeing this document before? No, I don't. This is a dismissal notice ordering the immediate termination of a prison staff member's employment. A dismissal notice. And the name on the notice is yours, Mr. Vigil. Yeah, sorry about that, Sora. What? It's mine? So you didn't resign from the prison service at all? For some reason, you were dismissed as Chief Warder from Barclay. No, there's been some mistake. I'm sure. I'm sure I tendered my resignation. This dismissal notice is nonsense. Isn't it? If you were forcibly dismissed, there must have been good reason. Clearly, you did something. Mr. Vigil, it's time to break the seal and have you remember. According to the few remaining records, the final execution that you supervised was on the 17th of June, 10 years ago. And on that day, something very serious took place at Barclay Prison. The 17th of June? Was that the professor's execution? Professor? As you were the chief warder at the time, it stands to reason that you would have been present throughout the proceedings. It does sound familiar. And yet, that execution never took place. The convict ostensibly executed earlier that day later re-emerged from his grave. The convict came back to life. In the cemetery in the middle of the night, there was a witness. However, the witness claims that a moment after he saw the convict clambering out of his grave, a gunshot rang out from over his shoulder, and the bullet pierced the professor's chest, killing him instantly. Those may have been the professor's actual last moments. Yes. Yes. Seeing as you were in charge of overseeing executions at the time, you must know the truth about what really happened. It's in your head, somewhere deep down. Well, Chief Warder Daily Vigil, I know there are memories in your head that can explain what happened on the 17th of June 10 years ago. And now it's time for you to drag them up. Mr. Vigil? Yes. The whole prison. It was complete chaos. The prisoner escaped. He was killed in the cemetery. The shocking news ripped through Barclay like a hurricane. What? What? Order! Order! Do you mean to say, Mr. Vigil, that your memories of the time have returned? My head, it's like some floodgates have been opened. The images, the screams. Oh, my goodness. The papers. There were reports, articles, about a man who'd seen a ghost. Yes, Enoch Drebber. But surely those reports were exaggerated. There were traces at the scene. Traces of what? In Lowgate Cemetery, at plot number 139. Blood. Lots of blood. That's where the man was buried, of course. Obviously, something terrible had happened there. The depths of conspiracy and depravity from which this tale is emerging are quite staggering. I've reviewed the police records from that time extensively. A thorough investigation was conducted by Scotland Yard to ascertain how the convict managed to escape in the first place. And the conclusion reached by the investigating team was that a member of the prison staff must have been involved. Are you suggesting that a prison warder abetted the man's bid for freedom? Yes, and I was suspected of doing it. Of using that mass murderer's execution as a way to help him escape. You did what? I remember now. The horror of it all is coming back to me. One evening, a few days after the execution, some detectives came to the prison. God, I'm getting dizzy just looking at this. I was called to the governor's office at the top of the watchtower. I'm sorry, Daly, but this is a serious business. But I cannot help you now. As Chief Warder, you were responsible for overseeing the execution of 4, eh? Well, seems the fellows at Scotland Yard want to have a few wee words with you about it. You'd better pack your things, laddie. You're to attend in person. As soon as he told me that, my mind just went completely blank, and And the next thing I knew, Professor, the most hated killer in our country's history. And I let him escape? I'm finished. My life. It's over. Ah! Order! Order! Bailiff, fetch a doctor at once! Court is adjourned for today with immediate effect!
So, with Mr. Vigil's collapse, proceedings came to an abrupt end for the day. Once again overshadowed by the legacy of that notorious killer, appearing like a cursed ghost ship on a foggy ocean. Lord Van Zeeks, Mr. Vigil, Kazuma, and Gregson. All of them bound by invisible chains anchored to the same wreckage in the murky depths of the past. But the miraculous light that had been trying to cut through the gloom and shine on those tragic events was playing on the edges of the truth at last.
God, what the hell is going on here? To be continued. Shit. Well, that's gonna do it for today. Sorry, everybody. I'm cliffhanging you again. Thank you all so much for coming, and I hope you join me next time as we investigate deeper into this twisted case and find out what truly happened here. God, I have no fucking idea, but this is getting crazier and crazier. What the hell is going on? Ugh, I don't know. I don't know, but I'm excited to find out. Oh, man. Anyway, before I go, I'm going to show myself a bit. My name's Logic Blade. I stream on Twitch, and I port all my videos to YouTube, so if you want to check me out, you can check me out here or there. If you want to help support the channel, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, follow me. As long as you're not a bot. I don't want bots here. Go away, bots. Thank you. Last but not least, if you want to help support the channel even more, feel free to check out my Patreon account. Send a few dollars my way. Maybe you want to. Or check out my AO3 page. Check out all the fanfiction I've been writing. But yeah. With all that said, have a good night, everybody. And we will see you next time for some more Great Ace Attorney. Trial 2-4. Oh man, this is crazy. I'm having so much fun.